There's a type of man everyone hates, the kind who's easily triggered, always loses his cool, and constantly feels the need to explain himself. The moment someone disagrees, he snaps. The second someone gives feedback, he argues. The minute someone shows a little attitude, he takes it personally and spirals all day. Sound familiar? If it's not you, you've definitely met someone like that. And trust me, nobody respects a guy who reacts like a child. A real man isn't the one who's always right. He's the one who knows when to stay silent, who knows when to smirk and walk away, who knows how to drop one sharp line and make sure it's the last time anyone crosses that line. In this video, I'm giving you 7 lines. Short, cold, powerful. No yelling, no arguing, but used at the right moment, each one hits hard enough to make anyone talking down to you stop and rethink everything. No fists, just one sentence and silence. That's how grown men counterpunch. This isn't your typical inspirational fluff. This is how to carry yourself so you don't get pulled into the games of people who thrive on dragging others down. Watch the full video. Because if meaningless words still piss you off, you're handing the world a front row seat to your biggest weakness. A man doesn't fear being disliked, but he never allows himself to be disrespected. And the first step to never being disrespected starts with lines like these. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like if you're new here. It helps me keep bringing you more valuable content. There's a certain kind of person who thinks they're helping you by being brutally honest, but they're not helping. They're just dumping their emotional trash on your head. They dress it up as just being real, giving feedback, or caring about you, but their real goal is control. They want you to listen, to change, to bend, until you're no longer yourself. And then you start to doubt. Maybe they're right? Am I wrong? What should I do to make them happy? All it takes is a few words, and suddenly you begin to question everything you're becoming. And if you're not awake, that self-doubt will kill the version of you that's trying to rise. The phrase, "You have the right to your opinion, and I have the right to ignore it," cuts that leash immediately. No argument, no back and forth. It's not disrespectful, it's self-respect. It's how you say, "I'm not handing the wheel of my life to anyone, especially someone who doesn't understand or doesn't respect the road I'm on." Some people will ask, why be so cold? Why not just listen with kindness? And I'd ask right back, can you be kind to someone who's trying to shrink you? Can you be gentle with someone who's trying to shape you into who they want, not who you choose to be? In a world full of judgment and fake concern, coldness isn't arrogance, it's armor. Not everyone deserves your softness. Not everyone has the character to shape your thinking. And absolutely not everyone is worth your time. Why do you need this line? Because you've spent too many years living like a puppet, reacting to other people's emotions, making decisions by other people's standards, judging yourself through their lens. They told you which degree to pursue. You obeyed. They said your path was pointless. You quit. They called you a dreamer, and you started doubting your dream. Piece by piece, you gave yourself away. No one stole your identity. You handed it over. That ends today. If there's one skill every man must master in life, it's not public speaking, it's not clever conversation, it's the ability to ignore, to filter, to hear something and decide it's not worth keeping, to let it pass like wind through an open field. This sentence, short, simple, is a declaration, not of anger, but of clarity. It's not meant to sound tough. It's not for the weak to fake strength. It's the voice of a man who understands the world doesn't owe him agreement, and he doesn't owe the world approval. Sometimes the people who hold you back aren't enemies. They're your coworkers, your friends, even your parents. They tell you not to take risks, not to stand out, not to disrupt anything. They think they're protecting you, but really, they're shackling you with their fear. And if you don't break free, you'll live as a reflection of the world around you, not as your own man. One of Stoicism's core principles is to focus only on what's within your control. And you know what's always within your control? Your attitude, your response, your choice. You can either protect your inner peace or throw it into every emotional battlefield someone drags you into. You can either rise, walk away, and ignore, or stay there getting punched by words that shouldn't even matter. Don't get it twisted. I'm not telling you to be indifferent. I'm telling you to be selective. Selectiveness is freedom. Anyone can talk, but no one has the power to control your mind unless you hand it to them. And saying, "I have the right to ignore it," is how you cut the cord to anything that doesn't serve your growth. You can't control what people say, but you absolutely control what you give your attention to. And in today's world, attention is the most valuable currency you've got. Don't blow it on meaningless chatter. Invest it in action, in discipline, in becoming better. Not in arguments with someone who doesn't know you, hasn't lived your story, and still thinks they're qualified to judge you. A man isn't measured by his words, but by his silence. Not silence from fear, but from strength. Because not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion deserves a reply. Not every voice should be allowed into your mind. That's the calm of a warrior. Unbothered by misunderstanding, unmoved by praise, unchained from the need for approval. Living not for applause, but for truth, for discipline, for purpose. And the truth is this: ignoring is a kind of victory. One where you say nothing, yet make them stop talking. Because they realize you're no longer someone who can be controlled. Learn to say that sentence, not with anger, not with bitterness, not with ego. Say it like someone who's been through enough, lost enough, and finally realized your peace is worth more than any argument. You have the right to your opinion, and I have the right to ignore it. That line will shut mouths, but more importantly, it will set you free. If this video made you think, hit like now. Comment below. How have you applied Stoicism in your life? Stoic success, unbreakable mindset, total control. There are people who walk into a room and instantly make everyone else want to leave. Not because of how they look, not because of how they smell, but because they're loud, obnoxious, and bring zero value. They talk too much, interrupt constantly, laugh over the top, throw jabs, and try to draw attention with fake, cheap energy. And the strange thing is, people still sit there and listen. Not out of respect, but because they haven't learned how to shut down the noise with calm intelligence. This line, "If I got $1 every time you said something smart, I'd still be broke," isn't just a jab. It's a blade that slices through the illusion that speaking louder means being right. It's how you remind someone that volume doesn't equal substance. Sharp humor is the hardest slap for an empty ego. There are two types of people in any conversation: those who speak to communicate and those who speak to dominate. The second kind doesn't care what you're saying. They don't listen to understand. They only listen to reply or interrupt. And when they can't win with logic, they turn to tone, volume, or sarcasm. They're not seeking truth. They're trying to push you down just to feel taller. You've met people like that. Definitely. They might be coworkers, bosses, relatives, that one funny friend who always wraps insults in jokes, the ones who act playful, but every word hides a blade. They make you feel small, make you doubt yourself, sometimes even make you furious. But you can't explode. You're stuck between staying calm and defending yourself. You hold back, then wonder, should I stay quiet or should I fire back? The answer is fire back, with a line so sharp, so calmly delivered, they can't clap back. You talk a lot, but if I got $1 every time you said something smart, I'd still be broke. That's how you take control without dropping to their level. No yelling, no swearing, just exposing the emptiness through a painful, cutting truth. And then you go quiet. Let them sit with it. Let them process that hit. You don't need to push. You don't need to repeat yourself. Real confidence isn't about forcing people to understand you. It's about dropping one line that forces them to face themselves. Instigators want a reaction. The bigger the emotion, the more they win. But if you hit them with cold wit, if your words slide under their mask and hit where it hurts, they won't know what to do next. They can't scream at someone who won't get mad. They can't humiliate a man who knows his worth. They can't win when you refuse to play. Stoicism doesn't tell you to never respond. It tells you to choose your moment, your weapon, and your target. Don't swing a bat at a fly. Don't waste bullets on a corpse. Save it for a moment like this. One line, straight to the core of their ego. One shot, clear, final. Why does this line work so well? Because it mixes humor with truth. It makes people laugh, but also hits their pride and leaves them speechless. You're not insulting them directly. You're presenting a fact. If every smart thing you said earned me $1, I'd still be broke. And that forces them to ask themselves, have I really said anything valuable? That's the power of reflection. And that's what loudmouths fear the most, being forced into silence to face themselves. You can use this line anywhere. In a meeting when someone interrupts just to show off, at a party when someone mocks your ideas with cheap jokes, or at home when a relative tries to teach you through sarcastic lectures, but never lives by what they say. Use it, not to humiliate, but to draw the line. Because sometimes, people don't understand kindness. They need a slap of truth dressed in wit to realize where the boundary is. But make no mistake, this line isn't for everyone. It's not for the easily offended, the reactive, or the emotionally fragile. It's for the man who can stay calm in a storm, but still knows how to strike precisely and effectively. To use it well, you need 3 things. Confidence, to never need validation. Composure, to not let emotions lead you. And sharpness, to say something that sticks for life. Not because it's vulgar, but because it's true. Today's world is obsessed with being funny. People think if they can make others laugh, they win. But some jokes hit so deep, they leave the room in silence. This is one of those. Used right, it's not just self-defense, it's a game reset. When you walk into a room, let your presence speak before your voice. And if someone tries to interrupt, steal the spotlight, or play alpha, remember, real presence isn't noise, it's weight. And the right words, said to the right person, at the right time, carry more weight than 100 useless arguments. You talk a lot, but if I got $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd still be broke. Say it, smile, walk away. Because real strength doesn't need to repeat the truth. It just lets silence do the rest. There are conversations you should never enter. Not because you lack intelligence, arguments, or the ability to defend yourself, but because the person in front of you doesn't deserve a single drop of your emotional energy. They're not there to listen, to learn, or to engage in a real exchange. They're there to insult, to inflate their ego, to drag you into the mud with them. And the more you react, the more they believe they matter. Someone who lives off disrespect is a parasite. They feed by tearing others down to feel taller. They love making others feel small, confused, angry, because in those moments, they feel powerful. There's nothing more valuable to them than controlling someone else's reaction. You react, they win. You lose your cool, they gain power. You try to explain, they get more fuel to poke you with. The more you talk, the more fun they have. They don't need to be right. They just need to drag you into their pit. But what if you don't step in? What if you simply look at them, calm, detached, and say, I don't argue with people who feed off disrespect. That's it. No battle, no rage, no getting pulled into their chaos. You just walked away winning. People often think strength means arguing to the end. Wrong. Real strength is knowing which battles are worth fighting and having the courage to walk away from those that aren't. Sure, you could destroy them with facts, logic, evidence, but it's pointless if they're not here for the truth. A disrespectful person doesn't care if you're right. They just want you to bleed. Don't give them that. Stoicism doesn't tell you to stay silent in the face of wrong. It tells you to know when speaking is necessary and when it's just wasted breath. Marcus Aurelius once said, when you meet someone wicked, see them like a doctor sees a patient, not with anger or condemnation, just observation without letting it affect you. That's not weakness, it's discipline. It's how you stay centered while others lose themselves in drama. Some will say, but if I don't respond, doesn't that make me weak? No. Weakness is getting pulled by every insult. Strength is knowing when silence is louder. Walking away isn't surrender, it's stopping a storm before it even starts. You see it in their smirk, their tone, the way they twist your words. They didn't come to build, they came to break. And if you stand there arguing, you become them. You give them what they want most, your attention. Don't. Say it once, calmly, firmly. I don't argue with people who feed off disrespect. That sentence is a door you close in their face, quietly but firmly. You don't need to raise your voice. You simply take your power back. No reaction, no stooping, no playing by their rules. That's how you win without a fight. Because when you walk into a toxic argument, no matter how solid your logic is, you'll still feel dirty afterward. No one walks through mud and stays clean. You leave with heaviness, frustration, mental fog. You question yourself, regret your words, wish you'd stayed out, and then you realize you traded your peace to win nothing. But when you walk away with that one line, you don't need to care what they think. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to win, because you already did by refusing to play. One of the hardest parts of maturity is letting people think you lost and still knowing you won. That's advanced self-discipline. Not because you can't clap back, but because you've outgrown the need to always prove something. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, to be liked, to be shared, choosing silence and walking away is an act of rebellion. And the disrespectful won't know how to respond. They don't get you. They can't read your next move. They're left alone in a game that suddenly has only one player. And they realize they've lost control. If you're someone who used to get easily triggered, who had to argue to regain honor, who lost sleep over pointless back and forths, this is your moment to take your power back. You can't stop people from being disrespectful, but you can absolutely refuse to respond to it. You can choose to hold your silence, not as weakness, but as precision. You can choose to walk away, not because you were forced, but because your presence is a gift, not a given. And you can choose this line as a quiet blade, a single, clean cut that separates you from those who survive by poisoning others. I don't argue with people who feed off disrespect. Learn to say it with steady eyes. No anger, no contempt, no tension, just clarity. Then walk away, without looking back. You don't need to win with words, just win by staying still. Nothing reveals someone's true character faster than their attitude when they have nothing left to pretend with. You can learn how to speak, dress, or make a good impression. But attitude, the way you carry yourself when things don't go your way, when others disagree with you, or when no one's paying attention, is the part you can't hide. It's the most honest reflection of your inner self, and it's what determines how far you'll go in this life. The line, "Your attitude won't get you far," isn't an insult. It's a wake-up call. It doesn't come from anger. It comes from someone who's walked through fire and watched plenty of smart, talented people fall apart simply because they didn't know how to carry themselves. We've all seen it. People with talent, knowledge, and advantages still lose because of bad attitude. They show up to work with a scowl, treat coworkers like enemies, talk to their boss with arrogance. They meet clients thinking they're superior, show up in meetings only to flex, and argue not to understand, but to win. Then they wonder why no one wants to work with them, help them, or give them a shot. You can be the best in the room, but if your attitude makes people feel threatened, disrespected, or looked down on, you won't keep that position for long. Talent might get you through the door. Only attitude lets you stay. We live in a world where way too many people confuse confidence with arrogance. They think being strong means overpowering everyone around them. They believe being real means being rude, no matter who it hurts. They treat "this is just who I am" like it's a license to never grow up. But you can't live forever as a stubborn child in a grown man's body. You can't keep blaming your personality or your childhood for acting like a jerk. A grown man understands attitude is a choice, not a fixed trait. This line, "Your attitude won't get you far," should be said when you see someone wrecking their future with their current arrogance. It might be a young coworker who looks down on others, a friend constantly radiating negativity, a skilled employee who acts like a wounded kid every time someone gives feedback. Or maybe it's you, in the mirror, on those days when you lose control just because your ego got scratched. And if you don't remind yourself of this line, life eventually will. With failure. Have you ever wondered why some people always seem to attract help, guidance, and opportunity? It's not because they're better than you. It's because they make others feel respected. They say thank you. They listen. They wait their turn. They praise when it's earned and stay quiet when needed. They understand humility is the space where growth happens, and defensiveness is the wall that blocks it. You might think, "I don't owe anyone my best behavior." Fine. But you still have to exist in a society where you're not building everything alone. Growth, progress, success, they're never solo games. If you can't collaborate, no one's taking you with them. If you're always negative, no one wants to stay near you. If your ego is too loud, no one wants to teach you anything new. There are people living small lives when their potential is massive, just because their attitude killed every door that opened for them. You might be so skilled people can't ignore you, but if your attitude makes them want to ignore you, you're still out. You could be a top expert in your field, but if every time someone gives feedback you answer with sarcasm, "I already know that," or a look of disdain, eventually no one will talk to you at all. And once people stop giving you feedback, teaching you, or challenging you, you start falling behind. But you won't realize it, because in your head, you're still great. In reality, you're dying slowly inside your own illusion. That's the price of a bad attitude. It doesn't kill you quickly. It just slowly turns you into someone no one wants to be around in a world that no longer speaks to you. If there's one thing you should develop alongside skills and knowledge, it's emotional discipline. It's the ability to manage your attitude, not just when life is good, but especially when you're under pressure, challenged, or misunderstood. A strong man isn't the one who's always right. He's the one who doesn't let emotion dictate how he treats others. You don't need to bow to anyone, but you should know how to stand tall while keeping your cool. You don't need to please the world, but you better understand that respect is mutual. The more you respect others, even those beneath you, even those who don't get you, the more you elevate your own standing. And if you find yourself struggling to control your attitude, pause and ask, where is this attitude going to take me in 5 years? If the answer is nowhere, then you already know what needs to change. You can't demand big opportunities while bringing a small-minded attitude. You can't complain that people don't value you when what you project makes them want to walk away. Attitude is your loudest silent language. It walks into every room before you do. It speaks louder than any introduction, and it lingers long after your words are forgotten. So next time you see someone acting like the world revolves around them, look them dead in the eye and say, no anger, no spite, just calm clarity. Your attitude won't get you far. And if that line is for yourself, even better. Say it in the mirror, daily, until you change. Not because you're afraid of being left behind, but because you're truly ready to go far. Stop wasting another day living in weakness and chaos. Subscribe to Stoic Success now to build an unbreakable mindset, master your emotions, and face life like a warrior. There are some conversations where the moment you open your mouth, you've already lost. Not because you're wrong, not because you're weak, but because you just stepped into a chess match where the other side arranged the board in advance. You think you're joining a dialogue. The truth is, you've walked into a trap, a verbal assault disguised as communication. They didn't come to understand. They didn't come to listen. They came to attack, to belittle, to wound you with words. They want a reaction. They want you to crack. They want to drag you down to their level, and the moment you take the bait, they win. So instead of joining in, you end it before it even starts. This conversation was over before it even began. That sentence is the kill switch to every toxic verbal ambush. It's not avoidance, it's control. You're not backing down in defeat, you're closing the door on chaos to protect your peace. No yelling, no logic, no defense. You walk away as the one who already saw how it ends. Here's a truth few want to face. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your explanation. And not every word spoken carries weight. Some words exist only to harm. They don't build, they don't teach. They come from wounded egos, bitter hearts, and minds looking for someone to blame. They don't deserve your response, because your response only gives that poison more air to breathe. When you say, this conversation was over before it even began, you're declaring, I won't be the ground where your toxins grow. A mature man knows silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon wielded by someone no longer ruled by emotion. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't defend his honor with noise. His honor isn't up for vote. It's built in discipline, knowing when to speak and, more importantly, when to stop. We live in a world that confuses sharing an opinion with personal attack. People hide behind words like just being honest, just giving feedback, just speaking my truth, and use them to drop disrespectful, immature, and unnecessary commentary. They think I'm just being real gives them permission to be trash. But honesty is not a license to be an asshole. And just because someone feels entitled to speak doesn't mean you're obligated to listen. Some people don't speak because they care. They speak because they hate that you exist. You remind them of everything they aren't: driven, brave, authentic. And instead of fixing themselves, they try to break you down to feel less small. You don't have to join them. You don't have to hand them that win. Just say, this conversation was over before it even began. Then walk away. Don't look back. You just saved yourself from the mud. To the immature, that might look like weakness. But to the wise, it's energy saved for something that actually matters. You can't build your life while playing referee to every petty argument others try to pull you into. You've got a mission, a body to maintain, dreams to chase, good people to protect. You don't have time for garbage. So the next time someone tries to turn your day into a battlefield, look at them, calm, clear, detached, and drop that one line. It's the period, the wall, the invisible armor around your peace. Don't waste breath on those who don't want truth. Don't spend words on ears that never listen. Don't demand justice from someone who lives in distortion. Guard your clarity. You might think, but I need to speak up to defend myself. No. You don't always defend yourself by reacting. Sometimes you protect yourself by walking away before they have a chance to stain you. You can win an argument and still lose your peace. You can be right and still get wounded. You can dismantle every point and still lie awake bothered by what they said. So pick your ground. Choose your battles. Choose the conversations that are actually worth it. The ones rooted in respect, in growth, in mutual purpose. Everything else, end it before it begins. Not because you're scared, but because you have more to protect than your ego. A real man doesn't chase comfort by pleasing everyone. He creates peace by making disciplined decisions. You have that power. And that power doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. From knowing what builds you and what breaks you. From refusing to destroy your life just to prove you're not afraid to respond. Let them think you're scared, weak, avoiding. You don't need to correct them. Your results will speak louder than anything they say. Your success will be the response they can't deny. So when you feel yourself being pulled into a twisted, unhealthy exchange, when the air smells like bitterness and the tone reeks of poison, remember, this conversation was over before it even began. And walk, with your back straight, your eyes clear, your soul intact. Some feedback, the moment it leaves someone's mouth, you already know it's not meant for you. Not because you're arrogant, not because you can't take criticism, but because you understand one simple truth. Not everyone has the competence, experience, or credibility to speak on your life, especially those who speak just to hear themselves talk, who have no grasp of your context, who bear none of the consequences of your choices, but still feel entitled to play the mentor. You're living in an age where everyone has an opinion about everything, and worse, they believe you're obligated to listen. A personal decision, a small action, even just the shirt you chose to wear today can be scrutinized, dissected, and corrected without mercy. They call it concern, honesty, or constructive feedback. But most of the time, it's just a craving to feel important. And if you're not clear-headed, you'll become a victim of this invisible control mechanism called unsolicited advice. That's why, when someone inserts themselves into your life with a cheap opinion wrapped in polite packaging, look them in the eye, smile, and say, "Thanks for the input. I'll forget it immediately." It sounds gentle, but it's a blade. It cleanly cuts through any seed of manipulation. It's not disrespect, it's clarity. It's the firm boundary of a man protecting his mental territory. It might sound harsh. Good. It should be. Because if you let just anyone drop a thought into your mind, you'll soon find yourself living a life designed by everyone but you. Today they say you should take more risks. Tomorrow they call you reckless. Today they praise you for being open. Tomorrow they scold you for being irresponsible. Today they urge you to stay the course. Tomorrow they call you stubborn. You listen to all of it, absorb all of it, try to please everyone, and lose the most valuable thing a man can have: conviction. The world doesn't lack opinions. What it lacks is discernment, the ability to separate gold from garbage. And only you can do that for yourself. If you don't, you'll end up a collector of other people's emotions, lost in a forest of commands from people who will never carry the weight of your outcomes. The reality is, most of the advice you get comes from people who have nothing more than you, often less. They've never done what you're doing, never paid the price for the path you're on. They watch from the sidelines and judge. They're not interested in your results. They're only interested in feeling smarter than you. Their ego won't rest until they've said something, anything, that makes you second-guess yourself. Why do they do it? Because they're insecure. Because when you dare to do what they never had the guts to try, you become a mirror that exposes their complacency. And rather than confront themselves, they shift the focus to you. So you start doubting you, and they can go back to feeling enough. They wrap their envy and resentment in sugar-coated words like "just being honest" and deliver it under the label of feedback. Don't accept it. You can't stop people from talking, but you can absolutely choose what you let inside your head. That's your right, and it's a right you need to practice daily. Every time someone tries to shove advice down your throat that you never asked for, nod politely, no anger, no sarcasm. Just calmly say, "Thanks for the input, I'll forget it immediately." No arguments, no explanations, no need to defend your choices. You don't owe them persuasion, and they don't hold enough weight in your life to deserve it. They're just noise, and you're learning how to stay silent in a world that screams for attention. Some will tell you refusing feedback means you're closed-minded. Wrong. Growth comes from selective listening. You seek advice from those better than you, those with real experience, those who live what they preach, who own their outcomes, and above all, those humble enough not to see their opinion as gospel. You learn from them, you ask them, you accept hard truths from people who genuinely want you to win. But as for those who throw opinions from a distance, who speak as if they know everything but live nothing, you don't owe them a second of your time. A man's strength isn't in hearing more, it's in staying centered amidst thousands of subtle manipulations. Staying on course, holding your standard, protecting your voice, and remaining grounded in the face of every fake offer that begins with, "I just want what's best for you." Not everyone who says that means it, and you're under no obligation to believe them. "Thanks for the input, I'll forget it immediately." That one sentence is a polite refusal with zero surrender. It tells them the door is closed, it ends the one-way dialogue, and more importantly, it reminds you that your mind is a fortress, not a public park. Learn to say it when needed. Learn to smile, nod, and move on. Learn to distinguish between what has value and what just has volume. And remember this, the ones worth listening to often speak the least, but you'll remember what they said for life. As for those who force you to use this line, forget them as soon as you can. Some people come into your life not to build, not to learn, not to create anything meaningful with you, but to draw attention. Their very existence depends on whether people are watching. They speak loudly, act bizarrely, spit words like machine guns without caring if they're right or wrong. And if you're not sharp enough, you might think you're being attacked. But in truth, you're just witnessing a bad performance from someone too used to being the side character. When someone keeps picking fights, mocking, showboating, raising their voice, trying to prove something, they're not worth your anger. You might feel the urge to teach them a lesson. But before you react, know this. You can't win a comedy show by playing it straight. The more seriously you engage, the more ridiculous you look. You've just been baited into a cheap circus act. So don't argue, don't act mature, don't explain. Just drop one sentence like a knife that slices through the whole act. Looks like you're really committed to making a clown out of yourself. Say it, step back, let it sink into their head, swirl through their chest, pierce right into that hollow part inside them, where self-respect should be, but has long been replaced by a desperate need for attention. This isn't an insult. It's a mirror no one wants to face, because it doesn't flatter, it doesn't sugarcoat stupidity. It reflects exactly what's happening. Someone doing whatever it takes to be noticed, even if it costs them all their dignity. And nothing shakes a person harder than being yanked out of a role they've grown too comfortable in. The problem with attention seekers is they don't realize they're performing. They think they're being bold, funny, unfiltered, or fearless. In reality, they're just loud because silence terrifies them. They poke at others because it's the only way they feel powerful. And when you don't react as expected, when you don't flinch, don't fire back, don't step onto their stage, they see it clearly. No one's watching the show. Then they're forced into one of two moves. Either they get louder or they go silent in embarrassment. Either way, you've won. Because you didn't play their game. You stayed out of the ring. You flipped the spotlight onto them. This line isn't about being morally superior. It's a surgical strike, a tool to pull them out of their delusion and force them to confront themselves. Nobody likes being called a clown, even if they're acting like one. Deep down, they still crave respect. And when you rip away their mask, you don't need to say anything else. The awkward silence that follows will say plenty. A grown man doesn't throw punches at every provocation. He doesn't prove strength by reacting to every dumb remark. He knows this. If you have to use anger to win, it's not a win. If you have to lower yourself to respond, it's self-destruction. And if a clown shows up, the smartest thing you can do is not buy a ticket. Remember, you're building a life, not a battlefield. Every time you react to someone unworthy, you pause your momentum. You trade your focus for a fleeting sense of pride. Don't. They're not worth it. They're not that important. Instead, train your intellectual coldness. When someone's rude, jabbing, trying to pull you down, take one mental step back. Observe them. Look into their eyes, their tone, their body language. What you'll see isn't strength. It's emptiness, insecurity, a desperate hunger to be acknowledged. And once you see that, you won't feel like reacting, because now you realize you're just dealing with a grown child acting out for attention. And with children, you don't get angry. You show them boundaries. Looks like you're really committed to making a clown out of yourself. That's a boundary. That's a red line. That's a firm no. It signals, you don't affect me. And that is what cuts them the deepest. If you need one rule to live with inner peace, it's this. Don't react to clowns. Let them perform until they're tired. You're not the audience. You're not the director. You're just passing by, and you can move on, leaving only one line behind that they'll never forget. Looks like you're really committed to making a clown out of yourself. It's not strength, not clever words, not quick comebacks that define who you are in this life. It's how well you hold your center when provoked, insulted, and bombarded with emotional trash from others. A real man isn't the one who always wins arguments. He's the one who doesn't get dragged into the mud just because someone else loves rolling in it. He doesn't need to pound the table. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to announce who he is. He just needs one look, one sentence, to make it very clear this isn't a game you control. All the comebacks in this series weren't meant to create drama. They're meant to remind you, you have the power to not be pulled in, the power to ignore, the power to stay silent, the power to end things before they begin, and sometimes, the power to strike back smart, sharp, and surgical. Rude people don't need your reaction to exist, but they need it to feel relevant. Every time you get angry, flustered, defensive, you're handing them control over your emotions. That ends here. Today, you're no longer the boy wounded by words. You're a man, with goals, with discipline, with a life to build. And you will not let anyone, through words, tone, or mockery, pull you off your path. Remember, a man's greatest strength isn't in having the last word. It's in knowing when no word is needed. And when something does need to be said, make it short, make it sharp, make it final. Then walk away like you never stopped moving. That's enough. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.